Welcome to Still Untitled. I'm Will. Adam Savage, of
Hello.
course, is here. Norman,
Hello.
joining us as always. Today, we're going to talk about something a little different. Wait, no, not at all. We're talking about movies. There's a new James Bond movie coming out. And
Skyfall.
and the interesting thing about James Bond movies, we're all different ages. Like ranging from Norm to Adam, we kind of span about 12, 15 years, something like that.
Yeah.
We all have James Bond. Like James Bond is a universal joiner of dudes who like action movies.
Yep, totally.
It's the 50th anniversary of James Bond.
Really?
First James Bond movie.
Good God.
It's
And Dr.
been
No
a
is the first, am I right?
Dr. No is the first one.
And in my house, we are rewatching most of them. There are about 20 James Bond, 20 James Bond movies. We're watching all the Connerys.
Yeah.
The one Tim Lazenby, which is awesome. We can talk about that.
George Lazenby.
George
Lazenby.
That's a fantastic one. Her Majesty's
Yes, we should
Secret
talk
Service.
about Her Majesty's Secret Service and just like the transition
Timothy Dalton needed to learn how to cry from George Lazenby.
Yes.
not many of the Roger Moore ones.
You could have learned more.
And
You know, the Roger Moore ones is funny because I grew up with them thinking Roger Moore was really cool, but that shit really wore off after.
James
it was
Bond
real hammy.
movies are a product of their times.
Yeah.
More so, and that's the same character, but you see the 60s and the 70s and the 80s and the 90s.
My favorite
go
Roger
through.
Moore movie is Live and Let Die. I mean, I think it's the
What
most...
is Live and Let Die the one with the voodoo or that one's with Jane Seymour. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and Yaphet Kotto.
Yeah. It is by far the best of the Roger Moore movies.
But and I think that Connery was better than everybody else until
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Well,
I think Daniel Craig is the best Bond there has been.
Well, everything Connery did until he stopped doing Bond and then came back was better.
I see, but that's also I love Never Say Never Again.
What?
I've never seen Never Again.
No, how can you say that? It's not a real James Bond movie.
I know it's not.
And
It has
it's
nothing to
a
do with the
remake.
Broccoli Eyes.
It's a remake
Yeah,
of Casino Royale, right?
No, it's a remake of Thunderball.
Really?
And
With Kim Basinger?
Yeah.
with Kim Basinger and
Klaus Maria Brandauer.
it's a
Klaus Maria
inferior
Brandauer makes one of the
remake.
best villains.
Oh,
I loved him as a villain.
okay.
Thunderball. See, Thunderball is my favorite of the Connery movies. Maybe the one, From Russia with Love. But Thunderball is awesome because it's like the '60s Playboy Bond, right?
It's so the '60s Playboy Bond, and it's the '60s Playboy Bond as like youthful boys in the '70s pictured the '60s Playboy.
Well, that's how I grew
Well,
up, and I was
those
like, "This is what the
movies-
'60s is
Yeah,
about."
Those movies,
Exactly.
yeah.
And
made
then I
in
found out about the
60s,
whole other '60s.
Rewatching them now, and they've just been restored.
Yeah.
So all the movies are now on Blu-ray. Not many of them were on Blu-ray before, and some have been restored. It looks great.
Yeah,
You realize also James Bond was a rapist.
yeah.
It was offensive. There's a scene in Thunderball, and the movies are great because they're all 2 hours long. I think the newest Skyfall is supposed to be 2 hours and 2.5 hours, the
Yeah.
longest one by far. Previously, I think it was Her Majesty's Secret Service was 2 hours and 20 minutes. They're all really long. They all have like first act, which has nothing to do with the movie.
Yeah.
It's mostly just showing his character.
Yeah.
And then the real evil plot
Hold on,
rolls in.
because the character of James Bond needs such a deep setup
Well,
at this point.
No,
it
you
needs-
always need the opening action sequence.
The opening
for Bond.
action sequence and then some type of love of like quick love affair. But in Thunderball, he's in the first action sequence. He has the it's parody by Austin Powers. The man dresses the woman.
Yeah.
There's a big fight scene. He gets back injured. He goes to a rehabilitation center.
Oh, right. He kicks the crap out of the nun, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it's one of my
Yes.
favorite openings ever.
Yes. As a cold open, hilarious.
It's brilliant.
He goes into the rehabilitation center where he like coincidentally hears about the nuclear weapon being stolen. And there's a scene where like he's hitting on the woman,
The nurse.
nurse.
Yeah.
She rejects his advances 3 times. Then he almost dies. And he goes, "Oh no, I'm going to be fine." He goes, "Well, we can make an arrangement about that." And he goes, "Oh no, you don't." And he goes, "Oh yes. And then they walk into a steam room, and they fade to black. He is a rapist.
It's a total.
Yeah.
It is scary.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of like, as a product of the times, there's also a lot of weird racism where he dresses up in makeup for different
And ethnicities.
Different
wildly
ethnicities.
different
Yes.
ethnicities.
Yes.
And then at some point he gets just really old with Roger Moore. I mean, by the end of the Roger Moore days, James Bond was not a little old,
No.
but like my granddad,
Long
old.
in the tooth.
Yeah.
And, so there is a proto James Bond Roger Moore movie called Fox.
I've never seen
where
this.
he plays a special forces guy who, does the Times crossword puzzle. At some point, somebody says to him, "I'll bet you do the Times crossword puzzle in 10 minutes." And he goes, "I've never taken 10 minutes." um, yeah, it's Roger Moore got really long in the tooth. And then there was the whole, see, the problem was after Roger Moore, Timothy Dalton, terrific actor,
Only got 2.
never meant to be Bond, shouldn't have
What?
been Bond.
No,
He
because the
had some-
story. Here's the thing: is the budgets were really low for those
Yeah,
movies,
Yeah.
and they were Pierce Brosnan was supposed to be that Bond.
I know. But the problem is that once Pierce Brosnan became Bond, like 7 years later, he was doing Bond in the old Roger Moore mold, and we were in the 90s by that point.
Yeah, Guns N' Roses was people weren't listening to Guns N' Roses anymore. That didn't fly.
No, and it's just the Pierce Brosnan ones, all the tongue is so firmly in the cheek. I find them, I can't watch.
So
It's
GoldenEye-
borderlines on parody.
Yeah, they totally.
And instead of trying to do its own thing with the spirit of the character, it just had a checkbox of, okay, he needs to play poker. He needs to, he needs to do this.
There's a girl, and
there
then
needs to
maybe
be
another
this
girl.
quip, a really bad pun.
Right. Yeah. And it got silly. I loved the introduction of Judi Dench as M.
Yes.
She's in World Is Not Enough,
Mhm.
right?
I think
GoldenEye.
that's when she's
Tomorrow Never Dies.
Tomorrow Never Dies. Okay.
Yeah, because she wasn't in GoldenEye.
The internet just taught me that the world is not enough is the Bond family crest motto, which
And
is
that is
seen-
revealed in Her Majesty's Secret Service when he
Yes.
walks in and he has the crest. He goes, "The world is not enough."
Yes,
I
in
did
Latin.
not know that.
Um,
So I thought GoldenEye was actually. I think GoldenEye holds up better than any of the other Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
It's by far the best of them.
the villain in that is isn't it
It's-
Timothy Oliphant or something like that?
No. And in GoldenEye, it's Sean Bean,
Right.
006.
Ah,
And
right.
it starts off, it's great because you don't never see the other 00s. And so
Right.
having someone who's higher rank than him
Yeah.
that gets betrayed is an interesting take. And GoldenEye was originally supposed to be one of the Tim Dalton movies, but they had production problems. And so it was pushed to be Brosnan's first.
It was a Cold War movie. I think that it took a
Yeah.
while to figure out what Bond was going to be at the end of the Russians as a threat.
Yeah.
Um,
I just think I think Daniel Craig is so head and shoulders more, and
Oh,
again,
yeah.
because he's of his time, and I don't know what I'll think in 5 or 10 years.
it's unnecessarily violent, and
I think there's one scene in the opening because Casino Royale also has a cold open, and the one scene where he's chasing the parkour guy,
right.
and the parkour guy jumps over like an overhang of a door, and Daniel Craig just busts through it.
Yeah.
That's when you know it's something different, and he has kind of established himself.
And
as
they're
a
gonna
different
play,
James Bond.
and they're gonna play around with your perception of Bond. I loved the girl from Casino Royale. I can't remember her name.
Ava
Vesper,
Green?
yeah, but she played Vesper.
That
Lynd?
actress is one of the loveliest women alive,
Mhm.
really. And I just saw her play a witch. Well,
Dark
she played-
Shadows.
What?
Dark Shadows.
In Dark Shadows.
Really?
Yes, she plays a witch in it, which is hilarious because she also plays a witch in The Golden Compass.
Ah, I
And
never saw that.
she's kind of born to play a witch. She's got this wacky face, but she's so crazy
Like
lovely.
a good stare.
Yeah, and she's amazing foil for Daniel Craig. And
Mm-hmm.
the Daniel Craig movies are much less sexy.
Mhm.
And I like that. They're much less of that, much less of the rapist in Bond
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah. The rapist.
Ah, the
For
70s.
400,
But
please, Alex.
One of the great things about watching old Bond films, and when I was a kid, because I never grew up with the Sean Connery ones, it was tongue in cheek, but now you can really appreciate the production design because they are movies of their time. When you watch
Yes.
Your Majesty's Secret Service, you have the base, like the one before the volcano base, and then
Yes.
the Blofeld's, mountain Swiss resort base.
Yes.
That's a
just
real
the-
place, the Swiss resort.
The
You can go
architecture.
there.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
We can't go there.
I think you actually can go
No,
there.
I'm making.
I mean, we can make a video. Let's go to Switzerland.
We interviewed the woman that got Shirley Eaton, who got painted in gold.
Oh,
We
right.
interviewed her on MythBusters way back when.
Was that about whether the complete coverage kills you?
Yeah,
Okay,
which it doesn't.
good to know.
Yeah,
We don't breathe through our skins, it
No,
turns
we
out.
don't. It makes you really cranky.
Oh,
I
really?
can tell you, I've been painted gold, and you get to feel like you have a cold.
Okay.
Oh,
And it comes on very quickly. It's super unpleasant.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It sounds-
Jamie had it too, although he won't admit that he was cranky. I can tell you he was cranky.
There's a baseline that you have to compare against, right?
True, you always need a control.
Yeah.
going back to Bond.
Yeah.
gadgets. We don't see the gadgets in the new movies.
Well, Q shows up in the new movie.
There's a new Q.
There's a new
yeah.
Q.
Oh, it's not.
Desmond
Cleese.
No,
No,
it's not
Dem-
John Cleese.
It's not
No,
John
John Cleese.
Cleese. Yeah,
No.
Yeah. There was a passing of the
Isn't
torch.
John Cleese Sir John Cleese now?
probably.
God,
He should
really
be if he's
ought to
not.
be.
Yeah.
I'm going to start
Yeah.
calling him Sir John Cleese.
You should write a letter to the Queen. Dear Queen Elizabeth.
Dear Queen Elizabeth. So there is a Q, and it's funny about the gadgets. Now, I thought the gadgets were awesome when I was a kid.
Yeah.
At this point, and Mythbusters, obviously, when we first thought of Bond, we were like, oh my God, this is a home run. And then we started listing out all the crazy gadgets and things that happened in Bond movies.
Mhm.
And the fact is that when you start to list them out, and we have a list of like hundreds from all the movies, so few of them have any hold on reality in any form that they're nearly all untestable. And I find myself getting a little bit like, ah.
And they're impractical now or unimpressive.
Well, they were one-offs. They cheated. The problem with them was that they are cheats.
Yes, in every single one, they're cheats.
There were a couple of exceptions.
Okay, example.
Laser watch.
Laser watch is
Give me a
ridiculous.
laser watch. I will find it. You know,
Well,
they
do
say
you know
No,
how
no.
powerful, how big the laser
If-
would need to be to
I'm not-
do what that watch does?
if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, Adam. If
It-
all you have is a
that
laser watch.
that watch would need to be like a 20-foot cube van.
Okay,
in order
okay.
There are
to do what
cheats,
it does.
especially in the newer ones. You know, invisible car, the car flips over.
That
not
was
going to
terrible.
happen. Very
Yeah.
terrible. But-
Underwater Lotus? Who doesn't want an underwater
That
Lotus?
I would totally want. I
Yeah.
love the underwater Lotus.
But back then in the 60s, they didn't have things like, like underwater cameras. And in Thunderball,
Yeah.
Q goes, here's a camera. They get pictures, 4 pictures underwater. I goes, oh, that's brilliant. I never had that before. Or, a
Yeah.
breathing apparatus or a radioactive pill. The
Right.
location
all of that
tracking.
stuff was like, yeah.
the gyrocopter. I mean, the problem is a lot of the stuff that would have been magic 30 years ago is something that you
Yeah.
can go to the store and buy
This is true.
today.
Yeah, it's all Bond gadgets are destined to show up in Hammaker Schlemmer.
Right.
Because
Well,
I know, or is it Hammaker Schlemmaker?
Himmler, Schlemmer. I always just mangle it because who
Yes.
knows? Yeah.
So
They
I
brought this on
guarantee you,
themselves.
when a laser watch becomes available, it will become available.
Well,
there
now the
first.
sharper image is gone. Thanks.
So it's really up to,
It was
the-
gone a long
Yeah.
time
Oh,
ago.
no.
They're all
now
iPhone
we have
apps.
Sky Mall.
What's happening is they're all iPhone apps.
So I really hope the new gadgets he has in Skyfall are not iPhone apps or something more impressive.
Well, they already did that, where Pierce Brosnan was steering the car with
Oh,
a
with
full
the-
telepresence.
You should
ring,
test
the
that.
flip
That
phone.
is a perfect thing to test because I guarantee you that you could spend hours and hours and hours practicing it and no chance of being able to steer with a touchscreen a car.
Oh, that's a great idea. That's we talk about telepresence as something to do on the show,
Yeah.
just as a way to help us steer cars. We were actually talking about it just this morning. And it's so difficult to transmit video over a radio signal over a significant distance under any kind of duress, like with a car engine running nearby.
Mhm.
And then to steer without being able to see what direction you're going in.
Well, and
Or-
you're used to having a 160-degree field of
Yeah,
vision, and
without
you're
being
cut
able to
down to
turn your
about
head.
35 even on a wide angle.
Yeah,
It's hard to do.
Yeah.
When we did the third-person camera at Maker Faire, I was stumbling into stuff constantly because even though I had a great big wide field of vision, it was still only this much of my. It just doesn't work very well.
It's very, very different. Wait, what's the third-person camera?
I put a camera on a pole that hung off my back.
Oh, nice.
And so I could basically like get third-person video game, and it turns out you can't walk at all with a third-person camera because you can't see what's directly in front of you. The only
Right.
thing that really matters.
But it's it's a literal out of body experience.
Yeah.
You're seeing yourself in the third person walking around.
What were you looking at it in, a smartphone?
Visor, a pair of 3D goggles.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we actually have a pair of new 3D goggles coming that do wide field of vision, and they might help with the car driving.
I would
stuff.
like to try those.
They're supposed to be here in December, so we'll bring them over.
Let's do a.
Yeah.
I'd like to be part of that product.
Okay, we can do that.
Yay!
We can make that happen.
We can make our own bod gadgets
Yeah.
untested.
Um,
Bond.
Bond
Yeah.
now Bond props is one thing I am very underrepresented. I have long thought of purchasing one of those man with the golden gun replicas because I love those.
Scaramanga was
Scaramanga is
great.
wonderful.
Yeah, one of
Wonderful
the great
villain.
villains. He was the high point of the. Hold on, was he a Moore? No, he was a Connery.
So I think the villain, Bond movies live and die on the villains being scary. I thought Jaws was brilliantly scary. I
Yeah.
think Klaus Maria Brandauer is a terrific villain. He's scary, crazy.
Okay.
I think the guy from Casino Royale, very scary. I think the French dude from the Diving Bell and the Butterfly, not scary
No,
at all.
not scary
Yeah.
at all. No,
Yeah.
no, no. In Quantum Solace, in Casino Royale, he was scary, but it was great that he was not like he was still a minion. He was still a lackey at the end.
Yes.
and
And
if you,
that was what's awesome about
Yeah.
the organization, the Quantum organization.
and if you go back to the one where Rupert Murdoch was the bad guy, the world is not enough.
Jonathan
No.
Price. That
Yeah.
Smile Never Dies.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Rupert. I mean, it was clearly media magnate, kind of Australian.
Not scary at all.
Right, not scary at all.
Yeah, when he
so awesome.
controlling
You know,
tomorrow's news
A
is
friend of mine was in a restaurant. I'll just leave it at that. I won't even give a location. He's in a restaurant a couple years ago, and he's looking over, and there's a dude reading the newspaper. He's there for lunch. This dude sitting alone at the table. It's an old dude reading a newspaper, and my friend's like, "Who the hell reads a newspaper in a fine dining restaurant anymore?" Rupert Murdoch.
That makes sense.
checking on his work.
He's good on Twitter,
His
though.
property.
You know, you got to say.
Is he really?
Whether you agree with him or disagree, he's an entertaining Twitter guy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, we should revisit this right after Skyfall
Yes.
comes out. Also, hey, wait, I want to talk about the best thing about Skyfall so far is the song.
Oh, the
They've
Adele
gone
song.
right back to the 70s.
It's the Adele song, yeah.
Does the song, and it's fantastic.
Casino Royale also had a really good opening
It
sequence.
was a really great this opening sequence of Casino Royale, brilliant, amazing, and the song was terrific.
Yeah.
But not like Adele calls back to the Sheena Easton, Carly
Yeah.
Simon days when the songs were always on the radio.
Big giant voice.
Big giant voice of really
Yeah.
talented singers writing with great songs being written.
Hey, that Sheryl Crow song was great. I don't care what you say. Adam.
No
Wait,
Madonna.
which Sheryl Crow song?
That was the one. That was the worst one in recent years. The one with the pipeline with
The World Is
Denise
Not Enough.
Richards. The world is not enough
with
with Sheryl Crow. I think.
Right, but what was
Madonna.
the song?
I'm-
I'll have to look it up. Because
we have the internet.
I love Sheryl Crow. I saw her at a rally a couple years ago, and I said to my wife, I was like, "Is it okay if I go up to Sheryl Crow and say I love her?" And my wife goes, "Her music. You love her music."
That's what wives are for.
Yeah, we'll come back, talk about Skyfall.
We'll come back after Skyfall.
The song is the best part, but I think so far is really cool. The trailer, when he jumps off the train and he fixes his cup.
fixes his cuffs.
That
Yes,
is- that is James Bond.
That's the kind of thing also that Daniel Craig can pull off in a way that very few other actors, I think, could do.
Without looking cheeky.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys next time on Still Untitled.
Bye, guys.